Hey everybody, I'm back. I got a lot of replies about the fires. Well, my experience with the Pioneertown fire. So I thought I'd follow up because I kind of skipped over an awful lot of stuff. I got a little sidetracked on Frank Garsky, which is easy to do. Again, evenings spent late at night drinking with that guy and listening to his stories were a treasure. Um, but at any rate, some people ask me, what about this book? Well, this isn't a real book yet. This is just something that our photographer pal Frank Bevins started out with a bunch of his photos, a bunch of my photos, because the house is worth it, the whole history. So if you'll indulge me, I'll show you a couple more pictures and I'll relate the issues that I had rebuilding a house that had already been there for 35, 40 years or so. Again, here's a shot of it. The rebuilt house. Look at that. Look at that setting. Look at those boulders. And I don't know if you can remember that view. The view is stunning. 4,000 feet elevation. I mean, I could go on and on. Every one of these pictures is kind of priceless in a sense because they all show different aspects of what this high desert is like. And it's pretty amazing country. Like Paul McCartney said, oh, look at these boulders here. Now, this is before the fire, and you'll see these pinyon pines growing right out of cracks in the rocks on that left-hand picture right below the post-it. I mean, it was like Yosemite. This is, 100 feet from my house. By the way, it was 80 acres that I bought for $600,000. And the the real estate guy said afterwards, he said, we all said you were crazy. You spent the most money on that place. Nobody has ever spent that kind of money on a property out here. Well, to me, coming from NorCal, that they were giving it away. When I looked at the bones of that house, yeah, it was never finished. Yeah, it was all run down, but man, the essence was there and the location was there and it was a work of art, period. Okay, so as I mentioned, we spent, a year and a half or so, 150 grand. I don't, it doesn't matter. Burned down the day we finished from this fire that had smoldered for days before. But what I wanted to talk about is the difficulties that were imposed on us trying to rebuild this legacy house. Because I'm so heartbroken for all of the people in LA that I hope they don't encounter the same kind of lack of common sense, lack of understanding, and just sheer bureaucratic idiocy that we were put through. Let me give you a few examples. Oh, and by the way, due to the fact that this was, again, a giant wildfire, huge, burned for like 10, 12 days or so, the authorities said, well, we're going to be really kind and understanding when it comes to rebuilding. So don't worry about that. Okay, so here's a couple of examples of kind and understanding. The guy comes out and with this is an inspector, he comes out with his tape measure. And again, you could see all of those boulders, the rocks that the place was built out of. And he puts his tape measure there. Need I remind you that we're 1.5 miles up a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. And he says, say you don't have the adequate clearance here between the building, which was stone, and the electrical meter, which was in a stone wall. And I said, right, what? And he said, well, no, it's you're 1.25 inches too narrow. See here, you can almost see it. Well, if I point it out here. There, you can't see it, facing the tower, it was where the electrical meter was. This inspector says, oh, you're 1.25 inches too narrow for a wheelchair-bound meter reader. And I thought he was joking, so I laughed, and he said, no, I'm serious. This is the ADA, American with Disabilities Act. And I said, so you really think that I said, besides that, what the meter is 1 foot in here, he can roll in and roll back, as if there's ever going to be a meter reader in a wheelchair up a 1.5 mile long dirt road up a hill. Well, no, he has to be able to turn around. I said, what do you mean? He can't back out? No, he has to be able to turn around. That requires 36 inches, I think it was, and you've got 34.5, or depending on which rock I measure. This was insane. So this cost an extra $24,000 because we had to build a separate building because now there was no room for the hot water tank, which would have been located as it should have been next to the kitchen, under the bathrooms, next to the bathroom kitchen. Perfect. No. Now it's 40 feet away in a separate building with 1 million pipes running because the house had radiant heating in it. That's something I added to it. The original house didn't have that. Radiant heating, of course, is where you have hot water pipes in the slabs. So upstairs we have 1.5 inches of lightweight concrete, and the engineer says, "Oh, I forgot to calculate it for the added weight of the concrete." And I said, "It's 11 pounds dead weight per square foot." "Yeah, but I forgot to calculate it." I said, "Yeah, look at how this thing is built. This thing is so." "Yeah, but I forgot to calculate it. You have to stop while I calculate it." So what? So he takes about a week to calculate it, in which time he has put a red tag. We're red tagged. We can't work anymore. A week later, "Oh, okay, I calculated." And by the way, I asked him, I said, "Did you calculate for 6 people upstairs dancing up and down in rhythm, a live load in the middle of the floor?" "Well, no, I didn't calculate for that." I said, "Well, if it will withstand that, which you didn't calculate for, I guarantee you it'll withstand 11 pounds per foot dead weight." "Well, I have to calculate it." "You have to stop." Okay, so we stopped. He submitted After a week, he said, "No change required." We're still red tagged. We can't get the red tag removed. The subs, the electrician, some of the carpenters, the plumbers, all that. Hey, I got to work. I got a family to feed. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Week 5, I'm talking to the builder superintendent. I said, "Jim, you got to go down there." He said, "Well, I don't want to go down there. I got to work." I said, "You don't want me going down there. I'm going to go off at this. This is insane. What, 5 weeks for no change?" And so Jim finally goes down there. This isn't Jim Ashow. This is Jim Barry. He's a local builder there with a great reputation. So we're not dealing with fly-by-night criminals. No. And he, very hat in hand, "Oh, please, Mr. Inspector, this is about the Smith house in PioneerTown." "Oh, yes, Ernie's handling that. That's over there on Ernie's desk." "Okay, well, can I speak to Ernie?" "No." "Why not?" "Well, he retired 4 weeks ago." "Oh, he did? And nobody bothered to tell us? So we've been sitting here for 5 weeks. Okay, now I want to back up on that meter reader deal because this really gets my goat. Right in that exact same location where the guy had his tape measure saying, "Oh, you're 1.25 inches too narrow for a wheelchair-bound meter reader," he neglected to notice that coming out of the ground was the propane tank riser. Now, from the tank to the riser is this modern yellow pipe with a wire next to it so that you can always use a metal detector to find out where the pipe, but the pipe coming out, the standpipe, has to be metal. And apparently the plumber contractor used the wrong kind of metal, because what I noticed, and this is totally visible, this is this pipe sticking up about, 14 inches and then going into the wall right behind the stove in the kitchen. We're going to the house. Do you smell gas? Yeah, maybe the stove's on. Anyway, we kept smelling gas. Pretty soon, man, this house is ready to blow up. There was the wrong kind of pipe. The pipe rusted out. I don't know how a metal pipe can rust out that quickly and fill the house with gas. Did the inspector get that? No, he missed this. This is actually a safety hazard. He missed that, but the wheelchair deal, he didn't miss that. Okay. So 5 weeks for no change. Here was another one. The house had a huge fireplace in it. And the way that house was laid out, the chimney from the fireplace went in an angle. I'm going to see if I can find a picture because it's worth 1,000 words. By the way, here's what some of the lines look like for the hot water through the floor system. This is us rebuilding the place. The flue for the fireplace goes up behind the stairs. I'll see if I can find a picture because it's pretty easy to see. And it goes back at an angle because it has to go under the stairs. So it goes straight up, then it goes back at a 45-degree angle, and then it goes up and goes up out of the top. It never smoked. It worked like a champ. And I had hundreds of fires over there. In fact, I had the mayor over there, and we barbecued in the middle of winter on that fire in the fireplace. Worked like a champ. Oh, you can't rebuild it that way. Why not? It will smoke. But it didn't smoke. Well, it will smoke. But, sir, the house was there for 30, 40 years, and the fireplace was used 1,000 times. It doesn't smoke. How about if I put a smoke fan, an extractor on the top, so you got a fan? Will that help? No, because the angle is wrong. You can't have an angle 45 degrees. I'll give you 29 degrees, and that's all. And I'm going, so we had a big fireplace insert that was UL approved because everything has to be approved by some knucklehead or other. And it would no longer fit because it was taller. And so because it would have taken up the space of the original fireplace, right? So in order to get the angle from 45 degrees to 29 degrees, that meant the whole top of the fireplace had to come down a lot. So, okay, and they said, well, you're just not going to be able to have a fireplace. I said, it's essential. We have to have a fireplace here. We're out in the middle of the country, and it's part of the house. It's all this stone. The stairs are under it. So I said, well, just brick it in. So we get this pallet of fire bricks, which 2 people could pick up. And the inspector comes out and he says, well, you can't put that in. And I said, well, why not? And he said, well, because you don't have the foundation for it. And I said, the foundation, it's all concrete here on. And he said, no, you need 3 feet deep of foundation under that. And I said, look, the whole flue and all that, that's all supported by the framework. We're only talking about this little pallet of fire bricks, which 2 people can lift. The thing maybe weighs 150, 200 pounds. I don't care. You need 3 feet of solid concrete. So, oh my God, there's nothing we can do. So we jackhammer out the 6 inches of concrete that's already there and start digging. And we get down about 2 feet or 1.5 foot is an odd shape, and it's solid granite. And so we call the guy back and say, look, this is solid granite. We can't go 3 feet. And so his solution was, okay, here's what you have to do. You have to put in 34 hardened steel pins that are 6 inches long, drilled in 3 inches on each into this granite. Then they're epoxied in, and then you can pour the concrete on top. And I'm going to insist that you pay to have a witness here to assure that you do it that way. And so that's what we did. We paid $600 to have a guy stand there who was a licensed witness engineer to see that we put in 32 hardened steel pins, blah, blah, blah. Okay, sorry for getting wound up. Oh, the cost of housing is so expensive. This is California. This is everywhere. That ADA, that's everywhere. But my God, do you have to enforce it? Is there no common sense? There is no meter reader in a wheelchair 1.5 miles away from a paved road. That is never going to happen. And in fact, within months, they replaced the electric meter with a smart meter, so no one comes out and reads it. Okay, you can tell that I get wound up because I've done several building projects in my life, and it's the same thing again and again and again, is that idiocy has replaced common sense. I'm building these for myself. I'm not trying to slub off, as we say, pimp up and whore out some piece of crap that somebody else is going to find out is fully defective. No, this is a work of art. I'm trying to make it the way it was, which was proven to work. One other thing, these pilasters that held up the roof. When we demoed the original building, they were 12 to 14 inches of concrete. Now, if I can find a picture, you will see me standing in one of the foundation holes that was required, that was 42 inches by 42 inches by 5 feet deep, with a 5/8 rebar cage, 4-inch grid in both directions, and a 5-inch steel column inside to hold up one-story roof. One-story roof. Whereas before, what, 12 to 14 inches, whatever it was, just a little bit of raggedy-ass concrete. And all that did was hold up. So from here, this picture, these stone pilasters that held up this roof, not even the second story. And I talked to the engineer out there. I said, is this required? This looks like the kind of foundation you have for a freeway overpass stanchion. And he said, well, it's a little less than that. At any rate, this deal, I don't get it. Is everybody, oh yes, well, we need affordable housing. We need affordable housing. But at the same time, you have to have, basically nuclear-proof everything. And I go back to that house in Lagunitas that, yeah, it was a summer cabin. It only lasted, 65, 70 years before I jacked it up, of total neglect. So, okay, now let's finish off the PieTown story because it's tragic in a humorous way. New wife, new life. Poor Suzanne had passed away in 2015. I was fortunate enough to fall in love with a beautiful woman that I adore, Teresa. And we just weren't using the PioneerTown place. So let's put it on a market as, expense to maintain and all. So it's on the market for quite a while, and we finally find the guy, because all we need is one guy, right? And this guy was the right guy, we thought. He said, I'm the biggest Frank Lloyd Wright fan. This is as close as I'm ever going to get. This is phenomenal. And then he looks at me, he said, wait a minute, are you the Mesa Boogie guy? And I said, yeah, as a matter of fact. He said, oh man, I got one of your amps. It's one of my treasures. I can't believe this, blah, blah, blah. So I'm showing him around, and he's saying, oh God, we're going to be such good friends here, because I want to hear every story about Frank Garsky and the old PioneerTown and the Cisco Kid films being made out there. I don't know if you kids, when I was a kid, we grew up with, hey, Pancho, hey, Cisco, les went. And you could see on these old, because I had them all, they got lost in the fire. Oh, they're running up the road right to our house. This is where they'd roll a boulder out in front of the stagecoach and then rob it. It was that kind of deal. And at any rate, so I'm showing this guy the bar, and I said, hey, the old bar, you couldn't even, a skinny guy like me, I couldn't even get behind it. So we totally redid this, and this really makes sense, and it's really a convivial place to hang out with your friends and talk stories. And he goes, I don't drink. I said, oh, it doesn't matter. Have a bowl of ice cream, have some tea, talk to your friends. I'm a meditator. I'm a Buddhist, and I'm just the spirituality here. That's what. And I said, yeah, that's undeniable, totally. So everything's fine. Then COVID hits, and so we lose contact. And after that, I realized, hey, this guy stopped making payments. So I'm trying to get in touch with him, no response. And I know his father and the company that the family owns, and I phone up, and the guy says, oh, don't worry, he does this. He just goes on these meditation retreats. I'm sure everything's fine. And so Teresa and I are getting ready for our annual migration from the Southland back up to the Petaluma area. And I said, look, I'm going to drive out there and just check on the place and see what's going on. So I drive out there. It's only a 45-minute drive. And gee, the chain across the bridge is down. Oh, the gate's wide open. Oh, there's the guy's Range Rover right in front. I guess he's here. I get out. What's the furniture doing outside? It's all thrown in the dirt. Jesus, what's the low-pie wood stove from the guest house doing out here? And all of the, oh man, so the guest house, because nobody's home. I'm walking, I'm calling, I'm smelling this terrible smell, and then I look and, oh man, there's a dead mountain lion. Oh man, must have eaten a poisoned rat or something like that. So I know, but I'm looking at all this furniture and shit. It's all outside in the dirt. Then I go into the guest house because the door is standing open about that wide. And he's torn down walls. He's torn out the tiled-in shower. He's torn out the closet. He's ripped off all of the shelves off the cupboards off the door. And there's scrawling poetry or lyrics or something written all over the walls about this Bobby character. So I go back to the main house, and the door isn't locked, the front door. So I go in, I'm calling, and there's no response. And I go through the whole house. There's nobody here, but it is a mess. It looks like a freaking crash pad because there's just crap everywhere, blankets and dirt and garbage from this immaculate, beautiful place that he inherited. And on my way out, I go, oh, wait a minute, I didn't check this front bedroom. I open the door. The guy is in there, dead. He has been dead for 5.5 months because what we determined was that his cell phone activity stopped on December 15th, and I was there on May 25th. And he was huddled in the bed with the heat on full blast for 5.5 months, and it was a cooked, shrunken cadaver that was the worst nightmare you could imagine. I was in, took a photo, and out. And I didn't even turn off the heater. He had a space heater in there blasting away, curtains drawn. I called his dad, and his dad, oh, God, that can't be, there's got to be somebody. And I called the sheriff, and the sheriff finally shows up. And he's kind of cool. He walks in, and I said, sir, I didn't touch anything, including that heater. Would you please turn it off? He's in and he's out. And that's another drug death. We see this all the time out here, probably fentanyl. The guy's gone, and so there's no crime scene here, and I'm leaving. And I said, wait, what are we supposed to do with the freaking cadaver in there? Can you call a meat wagon or so? Oh, you want the coroner? Yeah, that would be nice. How about sending the coroner out and pick this freaking thing up? And all he said, yeah, this has happened. We see this 2 or 3 times a week. It's everywhere. Oh, freaking crazy. Jesus. So the house is back on the market. Like the broker said, he said, you could get this house back because 2 things. He stopped making payments. He was in default. And number 2, the mortgage doesn't allow him to create all this destruction and tear down walls and bang up everything, mostly in the guest house. I said, I don't want it back for 2 reasons. Number 1, the family is devastated enough. I don't want to add to their misery and agony. And frankly, I've done this house not once, but twice. I'm done. I don't want to do it a 3rd time. So we'll see what happens with the Pioneer Town and this book. We never finished it. It's my fault. We got a lot of photos, and we were just going to put it in a book, and I need to write captions, and I guess I was lazy and got distracted on other things. So at any rate, anybody that's bothered to listen this long, you know the story of the Frank Garsky, Randall Smith, Pioneer Town, beautiful piece of architecture that I loved sincerely. I promise next time we'll talk about racing. Okay? Thanks, everybody. See ya.